Okay, this is the fourth part. The fourth part is Salag, which is an elevated, inaccessible rock. And this is another faster aspect of Mashiach Christ. So number 5553, 5553 is Salag, the rock. And all these teachings on the rock, I'm just giving you a simple overview. You're supposed to go through, use I suggest the strongest Strongs, not because the definitions in the back are questionable, but the strongest Strong uses a computer and they're very extensive and very accurate compared to a regular Strongs. If you have a strongest Strongs, I suggest you get the expanded Strong's dictionary and use their dictionary and not the strongest Strong's dictionary. But because you have two dictionaries, you can see the contrast and help you, not to give props to anything. All right, so in this Salag, and this is very important, Salag, inaccessible rock, is what we need to be aware of, because what everybody's experienced when they receive that measure of faith, the mountaintop and the valley, the mountaintop and the valley. And this is very important because when you have the mountaintop experience, you need to be aware the next thing that's going to happen is you're going to have that roller coaster ride down into the valley. And you can either do two things. You can consider it all joy, or you can whine and complain on your way down and end up falling out of the car, out of the vehicle, and you're going to be stuck in the mud, which everybody does at some point in time in their walk. Okay, so the first example of Salag is Psalm 40, verse 2. It says, "He brought me up also out of a horrible pit, out of the miry clay, and set my feet upon a Salag, inaccessible rock, and established my goings." The goings are established during the elevation period, and then as you go into the valley, the testing, proving, trying process, the valley of death that kills the flesh, and so that you can have a stronger connection with the rock, the spirit. Right. It's a process of growth. Everybody has to go through it. That's why people are close and far away, close and far away. Right. And this Salag is an identifying mark, and once again, 5553, you look it up, research all the scriptures, and you'll get more to it. Okay, so everybody at some time, at point in time in their walk, jumps out into the miry clay, into the pit, and it's inevitable. Everybody does it. I've done it. Some of us do it a lot, and then we learn not to do it anymore. It's just part of our nature, you know. Okay, so Psalm 31:3, "For you are my Salag," elevated rock, "my fortress. Therefore, for your name's sake, lead me and guide me." So again, elevation, lead and guide. When you're elevated, you can see all things and plot and plan your next move, your light. Okay, now we go further, and here's the difference between the Salag and the Tsur, the last teaching. The Salag in Psalm 18:2, it says, "Yehovah is my rock, my Salag, and my fortress, my deliverer, my Elohim, my God, my strength in whom I will trust, my buckler and horn of my salvation, and my high tower." Psalm 118 is a very important psalm because he went through all these troubles, and then he's like, wow, I really have to go through all this to actually learn about his sovereignty. Well, if David went through all that to learn about his sovereignty, what makes you think you're better than everybody else? So there's things that we have to go through. Don't hop out in the valley of death and play in the mud. You know, endure it. Consider it all joy. The book of James covers it. Just do. Trust. Don't explain. Don't proceed. Just trust and go through it. If you don't fight it, it's not a big deal. When you whine and complain, like Israel did in the desert. He's like, okay, well, I'll give you something to whine and complain about. He sends the Gadol Nakash amongst you, the great serpent. And that's what he's there for. You whine and complain? Well, here you go. All right. So the verse 2 of Psalm 18 is the Selag, the elevated inaccessible rock. And you get up there and it's, whew, you got all this knowledge and understanding because it's right there. And then you go through the pit again, the pressing. So you go to verse 31 of Psalm 18. It says, for who is Elohim, God, save Jehovah? Or who is the rock, save our Elohim? The pressing. When it says there is no other God than me, which actually, if you go into the language, this word la'ad, and in Arabic, which is kind of strange, it plainly tells you, like in the Arabic scriptures, that it's a sequential order of things. But for some reason, I don't know why they've done it in the English Bibles, they never translate that word. They just, even in some lexicons mention it, but they never translate it. Okay, so in verse 2 is the elevated rock, and verse 31 and verse 46 is the Tzur, the pressing rock. So 46 is Jehovah lives, blessed be my pressing rock, and let the God of my salvation be exalted. It is God that avenges me and subdues the people under me. The rock just runs over. He delivers me from my enemies. Yea, he lifts me up above those that rise against me, the Selah, and delivers me from the violent man. Therefore I will give thanks to Jehovah among the nations, among the heathens. I don't know why they do that. And sing praises unto your name. Great deliverance gives he to his king. Show mercy to his anointed, to David, and to his seed forevermore. Okay, so again and again and again, there's aspects of the rock. And Selag, this version, is to point out that there's an inaccessible place, the mountaintop experience, which creates that revelatory state of, well, you're with that great amount of peace. You can see all things, know all things, before you get back into the valley and start learning and being pressed upon. So we go to the New Testament, the Brit Hadashah, New Covenant, the renewed covenant, and Colossians talks about these hidden treasures, which is in Christ, the rock. So Colossians 2:3, it says that to whom are hid all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. There's a sequence. You don't give the things of a child to a baby. You don't give the things of a young man to a child or a father to a young man. There's a sequence of growth, and it changes as you mature. And this is why fellowship is so important. We encourage each other. You don't tear somebody down just because they don't know something. You actually have a chance to share something. And if they're in Him, they have the capacity to believe all things. That's part of love, to believe all things. It doesn't mean, believe doesn't mean that, I believe that this is absolute truth. You're putting faith in something, knowing that you don't understand it fully, but you're trusting there's sincerity there. In Him, you can tell the difference between sincerity and somebody they're just talking. They're like, look how much I know. It's, look, humility is not, look how much I know. It's about, well, this is what it says, and you go forward, and you're going to experience this. This is not, this is how it is. It's, look, this is what, when I'm on my elevated rock, I'm out of the miry clay, there's a tremendous amount of peace. It's a fact in my life. I'm close to God. I seem to know everything. It's a kind of a weird state. And then you go down to the valley and you forget everything. But as you go along, there's a testing and proving process. that comes from the mountaintop experience into the valley again. So 2:3, that their hearts might be comforted, being knit together in love, unto all riches of the full assurance of understanding, to the acknowledgement of the mystery of God and of the Father and of Christ. Mystery, big word. Big word. Mysterion. You look it up in the lexicons. You go back to the root word, or to the base word, or whatever lexicon you use, or whatever they call it, and it's going to tell you an initiation process and discipline. You first initiate. What I'm doing is initiating you into the aspects that there's aspects of the rock and these things. You need to look these up, and you become knowledgeable of them. And what happens is he gives you the aha moment. These words have meaning and purpose. So I initiate you into it, and then there's the discipline process. The discipline process happens with him. You believe it's true, you go forward, and you learn from him how it's true. Nobody can teach you how it's true except for him. That's what he does. He fulfills, completes your understanding. That's the point. But you can't have an understanding completed until there has to be a couple things. First, you have to believe it's true and act upon what you believe is true. And as you grow in faith, you start doing more because you believe it's true and have a rudimentary understanding of truth, because it comes from him. So another thing about hiding and protecting what you receive is because as you go along, you'll find out that there's these little things that happen to where you've learned something, you don't guard your heart, and stolen from you. Right? I don't know how many times this happened where I've actually learned something and I went forward, and I've had somebody just come up to me and just blast on me on something, and I marveled that everything that I just spent an hour and something learning and fellowshipping in was erased. I could not believe that I just had everything gone from me. And it's the devil comes by. You read the parable of Luke 8 of planting the seed, and they'll come by and just snatch it from you. So 3:3 of Colossians, for you are dead, selfishness is dead, and your life is hid with Christ in God. All right? So when Christ, who is our life, shall appear, then shall you also appear with him in glory. The likeness of the rock. So we become living stones. All right, so that concludes the 4-part series of the rock.